Welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. I am Tiara Williams. I'm also known as Miss Black Hollywood. And today I found a story that I thought was extremely interesting. 500 Black women, well, mainly Black women, are suing a Virginia hospital for malpractice and alleged unnecessary medical procedures. And I just thought this was really interesting. Now we've talked about this. We've talked on this show about malpractice when it comes to like women having babies, and this is it just still hit me the wrong way, right? I felt like this is really important because it's actually, I want to say, 610 women at this moment who have filed a lawsuit, and it's pretty serious. And so it just brought up some things for me, and I wanted to talk about it today on the show. So it's been a minute since I've seen you all. So happy New Year to everybody in the chat. I see people coming in. I'm so happy to see my queens again. We have some new queens that I am introducing this year, and I'm so excited to have them have this conversation with me. So I want to introduce you to them. I am with Felice Hightower Britt, our B Big coach, our B.Big coach, our resident therapist of the day. Renee Williams, who is a Divergent CRO, or founder of Divergent CRO. Did I do that right, Renee? Yes. Okay. I have Dr. Angeline Dean, who is a cultural gap architect and systems disruptor. I'm also joined by, is that it? Is that all I'm missing? Yeah, I'm good. And me, of course. And Dominique, my RN realtor and coach. I'm so sorry. I'm like, I have the list in front of me and I'm like, okay, I want to make sure I've introduced everybody. All right, let's get into this conversation, queens. First of all, have you all seen this story? Just give me a shake of the head if you're familiar with this story itself. Yes, shaking your head. Yes. Okay. So tell me, initial thoughts. Dr. Felice, I'll start with you. What were your initial thoughts about hearing that 600 at this point, Black women have had just random things, woke up and didn't even know their uterus was removed. They went home, thought they still had a uterus, and found out that there had been violations done while while they were sleeping, while they were under. What does that make you think? How
So
does that make you feel?
this is like live horror story coming to reality for our people again, and how much experimenting or evil are people going to put on, especially Black women. So I didn't hear the story until you sent it to me, but I'm shocked. I'm angry, that this has happened to them, and kind of fatigued at hearing stories like this repeatedly. And North Carolina is right there on the line of Virginia, so like it's right there. And so for it to be in such close proximity, that's alarming. And it's enough, like enough of these types of stories and incidents that are being put on our Black women, like our people as a whole. Like it's enough.
Yeah, it's enough. I can't believe it. I mean, it's 2026. Now, we ain't even talking about 2025. This is as of this year. We are 14 days, 2 weeks into the year, and already some foolishness. Renee, what do you think about this? What were your initial reactions?
Well, thank you. I was extremely shocked, particularly when I'm an advocate of ensuring that patients are getting their rights taken care of. And I'm like, I thought we got past that with the Tuskegee syphilis trials. And now, 2026, we're dealing with the same issues. And so I definitely feel that my question was, or is, the informed consent that they should have signed, was that real? And so there's a lot of questions that that needs to be opened up about this, because that is horrifying in today's day.
Yeah, there was some they're actually being sued and convicted of criminal activity. Obviously, there's like a blend of the two because there was fraud, there's been some tampering of, like you said, billing and documents. in what they, hiding and destroying documents. So it's very well, and you'll see that in the video. We'll get to the video in a second. Dr. Angeline, what was your initial reactions?
My initial reaction was welcome to the plantation once again, because my work deals with the plantation and how our systems still show up with plantation all wrapped up through and in them. I was angry. It really took me a minute to even catch my breath. I'm like, how do you allow 500 at one hospital and not see something is going on? And so I'm super excited to get into the conversation, but that's exactly what I thought. Here we go with the plantation all over again.
Yeah. As an RN, Dominique, what did this make you feel like? First of all, have you ever seen malpractice at this level? Have you ever seen anything like this in all of your years of RNing? Tell me what your reactions were, and have you seen this kind of malpractice?
So I haven't seen this type of malpractice, but I've seen things that would make you say, I think it's sad. Let's start there. It's horrible. It's sad, but I'm glad that they're putting light to it, because there's going to be accountability. And so moving forward, they're going to put more regulations and things in place that stop this. So working in a facility, what I will say is in terms of informed consent, if people don't read that stuff and they come in and the doctor go over real quick and say, sign here, and you sign and you don't even know what you're signing. So they may tell you one thing, but you're signing a form. So if you're not, as a nurse, like I always advocate for my patients, so just being able to say, hey, do you understand what's happening? Do you understand what's going on? You read this. I think that's important to, kind of prevent that. That's why I didn't see that, because I did pay attention to stuff. I did advocate for my patients, but this is it's sad and it's horrible.
Well, let's break off into this video and see exactly what we're dealing with here. I'll start with something. I'll start it off easy. Let's just understand what's going on. Okay. All right. And here we go.
So this story out of Virginia is wild. 3 former top leaders at UVA Health are being sued in federal court for alleged fraud, retaliation, and racketeering. The lawsuit claims their actions endangered patients and may have led to at least 2 preventable deaths. The plaintiffs include 4 UVA physicians and 2 widowed spouses. They're accusing former UVA CEO, Dr. K. Craig Kent, former med school dean, Dr. Melina Kibbe, and former hospital CEO, Dr. Wendy Horton, plus several current UVA surgeons, of falsifying records, improper billing, and punishing whistleblowers. They even claim leadership dismantled patient safety safeguards during COVID to keep revenue up, continuing elective surgeries, and taking all transfers despite limited capacity. Now, this isn't some fringe complaint. A no confidence letter signed by 128 faculty members last year accused those same leaders of creating a culture of fear and putting patient care at risk. The lawsuit cites racketeering, fraud, defamation, and negligent hiring. The plaintiffs are asking for damages and outside oversight of UVA Health. Both Dr. Kent and Dr. Kibbe are denying the claims, calling them baseless, and saying they'll be vindicated in court. The University of Virginia says it doesn't comment on ongoing litigation. So as always, the truth will come out, but this one could shake a major academic medical center to its core.
All right. What are our initial reactions to that? Now that you've heard what is in play, what it is, right? We will see the actual women, some of the actual women in a little bit, but that is just the basics of what has been happening. I'm just hearing that. Let me come back to you, Dominique. How does that make you feel? Like, what are your responses to all of that happening under a roof that's supposed to protect people and cure them and help them and send them home healthy?
First of all, that is crazy. I mean, just absolutely absurd. But at the end of the day, that's a business. They're there to make money. Healthcare is not healthcare. If we address real issues in terms of people's mental health, things like that, that's healthcare. They're a business. So ultimately, they're about their bottom line. They're not about caring for a patient. So they're going to run extra tests and do things, to make money because they're a business. So it's heartbreaking. It's sad. And even working as a healthcare professional, the culture of healthcare is kind of scary because even the people that want to report it, if you got all these people that are on the left side and you're trying to be on the right side, then they're mistreating you. And you're the outcast, and so you're the issue, and so they start creating problems for you, whether you're getting fired or they're writing you up, whatever the case may be, because you are interfering in their way of making money. It's a business.
Yeah. What is that? How does that affect, Black people? And I'm gonna just say this as for us, we have a distrust for America in general when it comes to a lot of things, when it comes to banking, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to just everything, I'm wondering, Dr. Felice, like how, like we saw, like we said before, with the experiments and the things that have been done on Black people, like how does this affect us moving forward? Like, how can we know that we're in good hands if things like this are constantly happening? And what does this do to our mental health, you think?
So, of course, repeated trauma, right? And even witness trauma. Like, we have to be careful with us hearing stories like this because it triggers a fear in us, even though it's not something that we've actually experienced on hand. But then a huge mistrust around doctors and facilities. And so what do we have to do? We have to do a lot of homework, right? And I know it's just one more added thing that we as Black folk have to do. But when it comes to your health, overall and holistically, it's no one's responsibility but yours to make sure that you're good. And so what does that mean? That means that you have to do your research. You have to talk to people. You've got to network. You've got to find trusted doctors who align with you, your values, your vision, your health. You've got to find those people. We also have to do a better job of making sure we stay healthy, nutrition-wise, exercise. Like we've got to take responsibility and take our health into our own hands. Like, I do. I have a nonprofit called States of Wellness because this is what we do. We try and go in and build teams of trust with people of color who know the mission, who understand the mission of making sure that our people are good all the way around. You've got to find those organizations that you can align with and partner with and get care with to make sure that we're good. Like, we're going to have to go back to our own and then make sure that our own really understands the mission and that they're on, because everybody who's us ain't us, right? That's unfortunate. So you got to make sure that we got people who are us are going to look out for us and make sure that we're good. And that's the work that we have to start doing.
Yeah. It's tough, right? Because you think there's this big business, and Renee, I'm coming to you, but you think that there's this big business. There's a hospital. This is a hospital, for God's sake, right? And there's doctors in there that have gone to school and gotten certified, and you feel like there should be an automatic trust where you're not thinking that there's a ring. There's a ring of fraudulent criminal activity happening at a hospital, and there's documents that have been forged. I just don't know how you would catch all of that, where you're thinking you're signing a thing, but it's not what you're really signing. And like I said, this sister, and I'm gonna play her video in a minute, she went to sleep with a uterus and woke up without one, and nobody told her that they took it out. Renee, how do you how do you do what Dr. Felice is saying and protect yourself against it if you don't even know, if you've walked into a place and you're like, I trust what they're saying, like this is cool. How would you have, I don't know, I guess the question is, how do you think that we can better protect ourselves in those situations?
Thank you. So it validates what Black women always feels, that our concerns are always being dismissed. Whenever we say, and when we have a hunch, like, I'm talking to you about this, but you're just smiling with this plastic smile on your face. nodding like you really understand what I'm saying. And it's not that you really understand, it's just the fact that you're not understanding. And I can see you just seeing that dollar sign, cling, 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 just chiming as I'm talking, because you're not caring what I'm saying. You're thinking about how can I lead this person into some type of unnecessary surgery or whatever it needs, because that's what they're looking as lining their pockets. And they are, I believe, is kind of like an attack with towards Black women, because they already have those perceptions about, oh, our pain level, how we describe pain. Oh, that's unnecessary. Whatever they're saying, that pain, it really isn't that pain. You know why? Because they're stemming back way back in the day when they did a lot of other things that they just believe we can take the pain. And I'm sorry, I get really emotional about this, but
that's okay.
How you can prevent, and I believe as Black women, you get your Bill of Rights and get your questions lined up before you go into that office. And you say, I don't know, you're going to have to take your 15 minutes of time that you have for me. And these are the questions I need answered today. And if I don't feel that, then I'm going to have to report that to get someone else to talk to me where I can feel comfortable that you are really listening to me. Yeah. Because I believe they just ignore us as a whole. And we have to go in there with a game plan for ourselves when we are advocating for ourselves, and have our questions lined up, do our research as has been suggested, and go in there. Now I understand there's like, Black women are aggressive, Black women are this. You know what? You can say whatever you want to say about me as a Black woman, but I am taking care of my health and I'm responsible for it. That's it.
That's right. That's right. It makes me think of when the first time a doctor recommended that I get a hysterectomy, I was about 33 years old. I have a history of fibroids, and they are big and bad fibroids. I still have them to this day, but they're all up and down there. And I know that like is common for Black women. And so one of the first things that when I walked into the doctor's office, he was like, "You're still young, but if you don't have any children, we could just take your uterus. We could take your uterus. We'll do a partial. Do you feel like, Dr. Angeline, that when other doctors, not Black doctors, non-Black doctors, are dealing with Black women, it is just like a means to an end? They're not going through the gambit and saying, well, here are your options. Are they just going directly to that? And why do you think that is?
I think it can go either way, right? I've had some great experiences with those who didn't look like us, and I've had some not so great experiences with that and those that look like us. I remember I went into a doctor's office one time, and when I walked in, I had got hurt on the job, and so they sent me to the doctor. It was a big sign as you walked into his office that said, "You and I will get along very well as long as you remember that I am the doctor and you are the patient." I was like, oh God, we're going to have problems already. I could already see it. And as soon as I got into that office, he talked at me, not to me, didn't hear what I had to say. And I had to go because of my job, right? And then referred me back to his sign. And we won't talk about what happened after that. But so I think sometimes they think we don't do our research. I think they think that we are just going to trust them because they are the doctor, and this is what the doctor has told us. This is what the doctor says. And I agree with the other ladies, like we have to also do our own research. But I also believe, and this has worked for me, that I don't go by myself. If it's something really big, I take a friend or a family member, because I'm always thinking, what if they say something that I missed and that I might not hear? And being in the advocate justice world, to me, having somebody there that will advocate for you, that will advocate on your behalf, I think is another way that will assist us when we go into these spaces. And I think too, when they see maybe a couple people coming with you, that kind of makes them think a little differently, like, oh, it's not just her, right? She's bringing someone with her who will listen as well. And so I found that has worked for me, because sometimes I don't have to say anything. Who I bring with me will speak up, and then they'll say something.
Yeah, I love that. That makes me think of, remember during COVID, and I think this was part of why so many people passed, but your family couldn't come into the doctor's office with you. Like a lot of people went in and they were not fine. Maybe they were sick, but and we didn't know what was happening to people. And before you know this, like, sorry to inform you, your loved one has died over the phone. It just makes me think of how much could have been happening during that time because of lack of loved ones being able to have access to their loved ones or even come into the hospital. So before we go to the next video, Dominique, what are some things that we should be thinking about in terms of when we choose our practitioners, when we choose the doctor's office? Is there anything, I would say, what are 3 things that we have to absolutely make sure that we have when choosing a doctor or choosing someone for our healthcare?
So you want to make sure that you do your research. So look, the insurance companies give you a network of physicians. You want to do your research. You want to kind of look at the reviews. That's another thing. See what the reviews are. If they don't have any reviews out there, that can be a little sketchy. But then once you go in, you get past all of that and you're okay. When you go into the doctor's office, you want to make sure that that doctor is not talking at you, but they're having conversations with you. You go in with a list of questions, probing questions. How do you treat what are your expectations of me? These are my expectations of you. So having a real conversations, and based on those answers will tell you if this physician is one that is going to work with you, because at the end of the day, this is your care that you need. And so you want somebody that's going to partner with you, not somebody. You don't need a parent in healthcare. You need a partner in healthcare. And so having those conversations, sometimes it could be simple stuff like somebody is telling you that something's just not right. Making sure about asking those questions. Is this doctor going to really go do a deep dive and care enough? Or are you just somebody, billable hours just to get in and out? So just asking those questions, doing your research, checking the reviews. Those are all important.
Check the reviews. Check the reviews, y'all.
Can I add something real quick?
Yes, please.
And y'all check your spirit. Like energy is real. Your intuition is real. Like if you feeling something, don't go against your gut. If you don't feel good about, like, you can walk out.
Yeah.
You can choose somebody else. So don't go against your gut, because sometimes people look good. They can answer all the right questions. But then you got to have that second eye, like checking in. And so check in with your gut, because if you don't feel good about that person, that's not your person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can feel that energy. You can feel that spirit when you walk in. Is this person going to does this person even like me? Are they disregarding me? Is it like, yeah, 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 yeah. But if they spend an extra time, and I ran an extra test just in case. I have a doctor who she's always like, let's just do it just in case. Let's do this just in case. Let's do this. Let's put the list together. How are you feeling now? She's asking me all the questions. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess we can run it. It doesn't feel like it's just about running tests and charging more. It feels like we really want to get to the bottom of if I'm well or if my body is having something else. So I absolutely concur with that. All right, let's go to this next video. And yeah, we'll be right back.
No, I do not have a uterus. And I found all that out, later going to another physician. Oh, you don't have a uterus. Oh, that's what he did. Okay.
What kinds of treatment or medical procedures did you receive from him?
He gave me multiple annual examinations. He gave me a DNC that led me to believe that I needed emergency surgery, which led to a hysterectomy.
So you received an unnecessary hysterectomy from him?
Correct.
What happened after that?
What happened after that, I immediately, early 30s, went into straight menopause. Night sweats, hormonal mood swings, just feeling depressed, and I lost my husband. So when you think about starting over, I don't have that option to do so if I wanted to. I went in for him. I did complain that I had stomach issues that I later found out was just a hernia.
So she went in and she found out it was a hernia, and he said, No, no, no. You need emergency surgery to take out your uterus. Or no, they didn't he didn't even say to take out your uterus. They just took that out. Right? So, now that you've heard one story, I can't play all of them because we'll get flagged for copyright. But but now that you've heard at least one story, I'll start with you, Dr. Felice. How does that make you feel? Like she can't have children anymore. They took it out early 30s. This is somebody she trusted. She was going to him annually. It felt, obviously that meant that he felt like a good doctor to her. What do you think now that you've heard it?
So I'm looking at Jenny Jerome, biblically wicked. That was just totally wicked and infuriating. And it really saddened me when you hear about possible dreams lost. You know what I mean? Like the unmet desires now, like where she thought um like she's divorced. So like if she wanted to start over again with someone and they wanted children of their own, that's gone because
Mm,
someone took it upon themselves to take something from her that didn't
mm-hmm,
need to be taken, and you didn't care. You didn't look at her as a real human being. You looked at
mm,
her as a science project. You know what I mean? And that's what infuriates me about the medical profession when it comes to Black women. They don't see us as human beings. We're
mm,
something else. We're projects, we're aliens, but we're not real people with real emotions, real lives, real families, real desires. And that's what I need. I need I need our race to see Black women as real people. Period.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's so funny because Black people are, I feel like just as a community, we are so forgiving and we can see, I think maybe because of the years of trauma, we can see people because we as a community, and I think this is just in our DNA when we're so accepting and we're so like forgiving, we forgive everything. It's like, no, they wouldn't do that to us. Meanwhile, they do it, right? And we just feel like, no, 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 that was 100 years ago, but really it's still happening. Dominique, now that you've seen the video, right? How does it make you feel?
It makes me feel angry, but it also makes me feel happy. Not that it happened to her, but that these things are starting to come out and it's bringing attention and awareness to what is really going on.
Mm,
All these stories, you're hearing more and more about it, and it's to the point where they can't ignore it anymore. So though it's heartbreaking and it's sad, her future was stolen by
mm,
someone that didn't have a right to steal her future.
yeah.
But in that, somebody else will be helped. All this stuff is just bringing, the more this stuff comes out, the more conversations are had around it, the more likely we are to get justice and to be properly taken care of. We're not just drug seekers. We're not just drama queens. We are human beings that have right to care, concern, consideration, and proper health care. And
Mm,
so, as sad as it is, I'm also happy that this stuff is starting to come out, and it's coming out like crazy. We're hearing more and more and more stories because they can no longer ignore it. So sad, but I'm happy that this stuff is coming out.
yeah, I think it's one of the blessings of the internet. I have a love-hate relationship with the internet, but I love that things like this can come to the surface much faster. Things can go viral. People can see it and be like, I'm sharing this. And before you know it, it's gone to the hemisphere and we're finding more and more information. But I definitely think in the 90s and obviously before all of these things were happening and probably happening at rates we can't even wrap our minds around, but because we didn't have that information access to information. Renee, what do you think about how does that video make you feel?
Thank you. I wanted to just give a real quick story for myself, and of course, will not name the hospital. However, I was in the same situation where they wanted to do a scraping and all of this other stuff, and then they wanted to do a image or MRI or image of me, and they said, no, we have to go surgically and look and whatnot. And I did not do it. And so what I want to say though, I was applying for insurance. And so, the insurance company calls your hospital and get your records and whatnot. And they denied giving my records to this particular insurance because I would not do the procedure. Okay. That had nothing to do, because I made a decision not to do the procedure with them. They would not release my records. Now that's a whole different,
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is kind of like forcing to get what they want from you. And even when you advocate, so you have to just be. And so, of course, I went to another hospital, and they had, I guess, instead of doing surgery, they had it where you can look on the X-rays or whatnot. They just do the thing. So, and you know what? That same hospital had it somewhere else. They did not give me another option, and the option was to do surgery instead of, or you can do this. But the fact that they would hold my records for me not to get insurance, that's serious.
That is serious. Insurance is a whole nother beast, right? I mean, it just made me think of just a whole nother beast. When I went down the rabbit hole, I saw a woman tell a story about how she was on the operating table. She was in the middle of surgery, and they kept calling. Well, actually, it was the doctor who was telling the story, but he was saying that they kept calling for him to come out. Like, somebody just kept calling for him to come out while he's working on someone. He comes out on the phone. They're like, yeah, you can't, they don't have insurance. You can't operate on he like, we're in the middle of it. Like, what do you want me to do? Stop operating? They'll die. The insurance company was like, they don't have the money. It was just so strange. And I thought that's where we are as a country, where it's like capitalism over care, over humans, over people. It's really about that bottom line. So that is, I think insurance is a whole nother beast in terms of like, while we're able to receive the care that we do. I would be interested in knowing what their coverage was like, because I think that it came up that they were some of them were Medicaid. They had Medicaid coverage and all of that. So there's a certain billing with Medicaid and, yeah, all of the things. So, um, Dr. Dr. Dean, what do you think? What's going through your mind when you see the video and also just processing all of this?
Like everybody else, I was in shock, but then I wasn't. But I thought about something else, and Renee touched on this a little bit. Another way is to look at your bill. I've gone into the hospital before, and I look back at my bill, and I'm like, why are they charging me for this? Why are they like, oh no, this didn't happen. What do you mean it costs $400 for 4 Tylenols, right? Like, I'm just looking at all of those things at the bill. And I think too, this is such a great conversation, because we also have to have an understanding, especially now today, they don't want us to reproduce. That's the last thing. They want to take control over our uterus. They want to take control over our bodies, right? And we're watching all of this in real time. So this show is just so timely today, as a wake-up call for some things that we can do to advocate for ourselves. But my heart went out to the lady, especially when she said she lost her husband. I was like, okay, all right. And if she finds somebody else, that's what she said. I can't even start over again. Yeah. And so I think that we do have to wake up, that there's a predatory nature and there's an intention behind some of this. And again, as it was already said, it's a business, and they don't see us as human. And we need to really hone in on that and have that understanding. Yeah.
It's amazing because, like I said, we never, when Africans were released to, the people that came to get us, to bring us to America, I don't even think they were thinking like it can be as heinous as slavery was. Like, we just don't, as people, we don't think like that. Like, Black people don't think like that. We don't think to abuse. We don't think to misuse. So I think sometimes when you say like population control, and we're hearing all of these like what feels like a conspiracy theory on the internet, people are like, yeah, because they don't want us to. And then we get into they don't want us to. And it's like, well, who is they? And then I start to think about the structures that have already been in place. Because it's hard to point out like that's they, right? But when you go into these different places and these systems that have been set up for years are still in play, that's the they. The system itself is the they. It's the thing that we can't believe still exists, that still exists, you know. And so it's as hard as it is for me to hear you say, like, it's population control against Black women, you know. To me, that's absurd. That's absurd to even consider that there are people thinking like, but like let's go to this next video, and we'll talk about it. We'll be right back.
Black women face systematic dismissal in the healthcare setting, leading to adverse outcomes for them. And this is discussed in many journals of medicine, and it's something that I have to talk about. It is something that may get a little bit of pushback. I don't freaking care. It's the right thing to do to highlight this inhumane way of treating another human being based on race or gender. Black women are twice as likely to die as white women in childbirth. Why would that be? It's not physiological. Statistically speaking, they are up to 30% less likely to receive pain management in the emergency room for things like abdominal pain. When I think back on my career, I have a couple of instances where I saw this kind of treatment of Black women in the emergency room, and I heard it in their voices over the phone, and it haunts me. The thing that I feel good about is on the phone as an advice nurse, if I heard that I was speaking to a Black woman, I knew that I had to be very patient and listen. And especially if they were very upset and maybe even demanding in the beginning of the call, I know that panic of, I need you to hear me, was what I was witnessing, and I needed to respect that and effing listen. And 9.9 times out of 10 on these calls, at the end of the call, I got a lot of positive feedback and gratefulness for thanking me for freaking listening to the symptoms and asking the right questions and not dismissing or blowing off their concerns, their pain, their need for treatment, their need to be heard, etc. In the emergency room, I have a specific instance of a large and loud Black woman coming in. Her initial, chief complaint, I can't remember exactly what it was. It may have had something to do with respiratory distress. Anyway, she was put into a back room. Doctor came in. She was very loud. She was very demanding. She had a lot of complaints, and he was like, I could just see him putting up the wall already. He left, and I did what I was supposed to do and sort of taking care of her. I checked on her about 10-15 minutes later, and she was in severe respiratory distress, very loud respiratory distress. So I went back to the doctor to give him an update. As soon as I mentioned her name, he went like this, like, don't talk to me. My reaction to this day to that kind of, not only response to a nurse who's trying to update you on the events of a patient, but for that patient, I have.
Yeah, that's happening. Don't say so. I see that there are people who are taking notice, but I don't think there's enough nurses. I think like that, and I'm gonna actually come to you first, Dominique. Not enough. I think allies in those spaces, right, that don't look like us, that are like, when I see white women on the internet talking like this, I'd be like, oh my God, oh my God, like, it always feels like, wow, we do have allies, but unfortunately not enough. What are your thoughts on that video?
It's all just horrifying. But what I would say is, so in the beginning, we talked about overcare, right? So surgeries that are unnecessary, but we also don't talk about undercare, right? Mm-hmm. The dismissing of symptoms, claiming that they're aggressive, because even if I'm aggressive, like even when you're talking about a patient that is in respiratory distress, that stuff affects your mental. So maybe the aggression has nothing to do with them as a person, but it has everything to do with the disease process. But you've dismissed her because she said something or she acted in a way that you did not agree with. Mm-hmm. I worked in multiple areas of healthcare, and unfortunately, you do not see a lot of us. There's more of us coming into healthcare, but we need more of us, Black and brown, in healthcare to have advocates. I have a personal experience. One of my best friends a year ago lost her daughter in her early 20s. This baby was touched by 6 physicians. She went to urgent care. She went to her doctor. She went to the emergency room multiple times, 6 times. And the baby went home and died in her room. Early 20s. She had all kinds of signs that even as a nurse, just hearing these things, swelling in her legs, shortness of breath. She's in her 20s. So nobody takes the time to check on this patient or check on this person and go beyond what you think the average things are. We're not doing that because one, the system is also overwhelmed. So as a nurse working with patients, you're talking about, like, I've worked as a CNA before I became a nurse in a nursing home, and I got a whole hallway full of patients. How are you able to properly care for all these people? When I worked in the ICU, I would have, maybe 2 to 3, 2 critically ill patients and maybe one that's more stable. How are you really able to take care of all these patients? And what happens is you end up taking care of the patient that either is the sickest or has the most demanding family members, and everybody else is not treated. When you work on the floor, like say a medical surgical floor, you have multiple patients that you have to do labs. And if they don't have that in their hospital, you have to give medication. The system also is not set up for you to sit down and say, hey, what's really going on? And on top of that, when people push back in terms of patients, when patients push back, like I would have patients that would say, hey, I don't take that medication. Most people are going to ignore them. You say that a couple of times and I'm going to say, wait a minute. They say you take it. They're like, no, I don't take this medication. And when you stop and take a second and listen to them, you realize that you just prevented an error, something that could have critically happened to this patient. But we are nurses also, we're underrepresented. We are extremely overworked. It's also a systemic thing too. So it's just all the way around. So we talk about overcare, but there's also a lot of undercare that happens in healthcare too, that causes a lot of deaths for people.
Yeah, and I love what you just said about, you said so many great things. Thank you for sure. That was insightful. Just thinking about like the idea of somebody coming in extreme pain. I've been in extreme pain going into a hospital before, and you're right. It's like, you're screaming and yelling because you just have a thorn in your side that you want somebody to take out. So you're not going to come in and be like, hi, I'm Tiara, and I got this thorn in my side. You're gonna be like, oh my God, get it out. It's gonna be a different you.
But you're dramatic. They're gonna call you dramatic, or either you're drug seeking, and they're gonna label you as opposed to really hearing you out. And I think part of it, for me, that I dislike about healthcare is the fact that it's not healthcare. It's about the numbers. It's about making money. Most people don't care. And I'm not talking about people like the nurses, right? We're talking about leadership. They care about the bottom line. They don't care about the person. They don't care about healthcare. In other countries that have free healthcare, a lot of these diseases that we have, they don't have. Why? Because they regulate things differently. They're not going to allow certain things in foods that's going to create certain illnesses because their healthcare is free. But because we can bill, and I'm sure you all have been to the hospital. You go to the hospital and you get your bill and they charge you for every single thing. I'm talking about every Tylenol, anything you do, they're going to charge you for. That's a problem as well. And that's something that needs to be talked about because they can only do this stuff because of things that are currently in place. Of course, you can bill. You're billed by this person. You get bills forever. Like, what is this bill now? And it's just sad.
I'm looking at Renee's face. Renee, do you want to add something to that? I just see your face is doing a thing. What do you think it says?
Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I just like these stories. My heart bleeds, and it's just I can cry, and I'm not going to cry. I'll wait till I get off today. But what I wanted to say is that what you were just talking about, Dominique, is I remember, I just like bring stories because it's bringing up in my mind. I remember when I was lying on the bed in a lot of pain, and this doctor actually was having another conversation with the doctor. They thought I was asleep, and they were running down, oh, she's educated, she does this and that. And they didn't bring up the insurance because I did have insurance, but he was running down my profile to the other physician. And then they said, okay, let's do this for her and blah, blah, blah. So they made a decision based off of my stat as I presented it to them, not me being a human being, but I think they were just line listing, okay, she has medical care, she has this, she's calm. You see what I'm saying? They do that. They profiled me. I don't know, that's just like the police profile, the doctors profile you too. They profiled me. They made a decision how they were going to medically treat me. And there you have it.
That is so true.
It's sick.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, a lot of times when I go into a doctor's office and I'm like, they're like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I produce film and television. Oh, in Hollywood, you work with celebrities? Like, it becomes like just a different conversation. Like, they're so impressed, right? That I can hold my sentence together. I got some personality or whatever, right? I didn't come in there like whatever they think we are. Dr. Felice, how do you feel about that? Like, what about Renee just said? That's so interesting to me. Have you ever been profiled? And also, like, just talk about that from like a mental health standpoint. Like, how do we go into an office and know we have to be, it's like that the code switching. Like, we got a code switch even when we're in pain?
Absolutely. And so what I think is going to need to happen, and probably is some places, is that they're going to have to do some EQ training, some emotional intelligence training, and incorporate that, like in our when people are going to medical schools, when they're in their nursing programs, like how to be able to empathize with people, and also realize, like, one of the things that I share with my clients all the time, we can't take anything personal, because when you are engaging with someone, you are engaging with their representative, and whether or not that representative has any coping skills. So when you are engaging with people, you are that's how when people are showing up a certain way, that is how they're choosing to cope in that moment. So like when you say you run into the hospital and you're screaming, I'm in pain, that your venting is the way that you're coping with that pain in that moment. And we as professionals have to recognize that. We have to be trained to recognize that people are in coping mode. It's not personal. It's not necessarily rude. It's not necessarily an attack. It is that this is the way this person is choosing to show up as a way to cope. And so it's going to take a certain level of training that we have to integrate in these systems to be able to recognize and remove the offense that comes with the way that somebody shows up. And so it's going to be a special level of training that we're going to have to incorporate in these systems so that people can kind of be able to meet you where you are and remove how the emotion that shows up for them by what they think they're experiencing.
Yeah. Before we go to our next video, I want to know what you think. Dr. Angeline, I'm coming to you. That's what I was about to say. I want to know what you think about all of what the queens have said, because they've said so many things. Like, everybody had just a different perspective and a different angle on it, and it's so good. What do you think?
So I had just written that we have to speak to medical students and go into the schools. So where I work, because I'm also thinking, okay, we're looking at us and how we're, how they see us. And you spoke about code switching, but think about those who are justice impacted and they're going into these spaces. They're going in for operations. They have no concern half of the time for someone who's coming in from prison or coming in from jail. And so we were talking about that this morning. When is the next opportunity that our executive is going to go speak to the medical students here in Philadelphia at certain hospitals, which they asked for, right? To come in and talk about the cultural biases and the and what is happening, and having an understanding around diversity. And guess what? She may come in as the angry Black woman, and guess what? That's okay, because she is at that point in time. But why are these things happening? So I totally agree that that's something that we have to do in every system. And so, yeah, I am so on point. I was like, yes, when they were all talking. Yeah. And I also think too, especially I find for my family, having a medications list, and I keep it in their wallet. So if anything happens and I'm not there, they ask 50 million questions to myself, or my sister gets there, pull it out so they will at least know what medications for sure that you are on. And then that answers some of the questions, and you could fill in some of the other blanks until we get there. But it's real. These are the things that we have to do in 2026.
It's so good. Y'all, in 2026, with I can't help but to bring up the division that's currently in our country, and how when we're going into spaces, especially with some government coercion, they're being kind of push to widen this diversity gap, and caring about others that don't look like them. And so I think this is really interesting, and I want you to start to think about this for your final thought, for your final thoughts before we go to our last video. But just start to think about, like, in this day and age where things are so divisive, I think more conversations on diversity need to be happening. But unfortunately, at this point, it's like, oh, DEI questions or DEI conversations shouldn't be on the table. Black people should just know that, they got to get with it, or it's all merit based now. Like, or whatever it is, whatever the narrative is that's being pushed about us all being on an equal playing field, and all of the bullshit they always try to say. But, I just want you to be thinking about that as we go into this last video. Now, this last video is going to piss you off. It is. It's gonna make you mad. It's gonna remind you of the past, and that's a good thing. We'll be right back.
Adriana Smith's story is emblematic of the insidious American history of using Black people for medical experimentation and advancement. Here are 11 other examples. The Tuskegee syphilis study, whereby the federal government from 1932 to 1972 studied the effects of the non-treatment of syphilis by not treating the majority of the Black men involved in the study, even though they thought they were being treated the entire time. Henrietta Lacks, whose cervical samples were taken without her consent, and which ultimately formed the first immortal human cell line, which has been essential to countless medical breakthroughs, and for which her family has only been compensated in 2023. Founding of modern gynecology by J. Marion Sims, who experimented on enslaved women without anesthesia, the use of Black Americans in human zoos and freak shows, radiation experiments on Black Americans from the 1940s through the 1970s, continual medical experimentation on incarcerated Black people that continued through the COVID pandemic. For example, the Holmesburg prison, where Black people were the test subjects for skin products, chemical warfare agents, and other dangerous chemicals. The use and grave robbing of Black cadavers in the 19th and early 20th centuries for medical schools as they proliferated across the country. The forced sterilization of Black women. For example, Fannie Lou Hamer, who received a hysterectomy while unconscious and without consenting. This was so rampant across the South that this was ultimately termed a Mississippi appendectomy. The Negro Project, which sought to tackle Southern poverty through the use of contraceptives among impoverished Black people in the South. The development and testing of contraceptive technologies, including the birth control pill and Depo-Provera, but it was used on Black women first. And finally, the forced continued pregnancy of Adriana Smith, a brain-dead woman, to see if unconsenting women can be used as incubators and hosts.
Welcome to America. Welcome to America. That's so disturbing, y'all. I can't even. When you really put it all together, and then here we are today, 604 Black women sue hospitals over alleged unnecessary medical procedures. It all ties together. So here in 2026, here we are talking about something that we can add to that list, which is really, really unfortunate and disturbing and heartbreaking and all the things. So I guess what I want to know from you all, and we can put these in our final thoughts. Please, ladies, keep your final thoughts brief, because it is 5 of us, but keep your final thoughts brief, a minute or less. And just kind of also wrap in where we can find you, and where you are and where people can find you. But I guess the question would be, with everything that I've said about the country and where we are, and this is still happening today, like, how can we get away from these practices? How can this be avoided? How can we really, like, dismantle this system of, like, discrimination? Is there a way to do that? I'm going to start with you, Dominique.
So I think that what is happening now is going to really propel change. We really have to unlearn and relearn, because the way things were going before, are this stuff is no longer working, and we're going to have to hit them where it hurts, in their pockets, and I think those things is going to cause them to really look at it. So when you're thinking about all the people that are suing that hospital and the money that is going to cost, things are going to eventually change. And so again, we have to unlearn, relearn. We have to get back to the basics. So things like growing our own food, and having a compound, and having a village and community where everybody comes together and we take care of our young and we take care of our old. I think that getting back to the basics, growing our own food, having farms, things like that is really what's going to help with change, because then a lot of these sicknesses and diseases that we are confronted with, like diabetes and hypertension, that stuff kind of goes away, because we're better equipped in ourselves. We are really providing healthcare. We're addressing our mental health. We're exercising. We're doing different things. Our family members are not in nursing homes to be cared for. We're able to care for them at home, and so they can live longer. And we're creating wealth, and we're creating health. I think that's the basis. We have to unlearn and relearn. So if you are looking to follow me, I am on Facebook as Dominique Lawrence-Morgan. I am on Instagram as Realtor_Dominique_Morgan. And my business page is on all platforms at the Whitmore Group.
Okay. The Whitmore Group, y'all. I'm going to add next time, make sure that you all put your, or you can also put your handles in next to your name, okay, so people can see them. What about you, Dr. Angeline? What are your final thoughts?
So there are a lot, but I definitely agree with everything that Dominique shared, especially around food and getting back to the basics and having those community conversations to learn and unlearn. Once again, I think we have to be cognizant that there is an all-out attack on us, to erase us in every kind of way that they can. And it's predatory, and there's an intentionality behind it. So everything you've heard here today, I pray that you put that to use. And I just think that and I heard Dr. Felicia also say it, have to trust how we're feeling about something, because especially as women, we're built with that intuition that says, something here is just not right. And going back into our communities and working and supporting one another is what I think has to be done, just has to be done. And we're in that time. Shout out to Claudette Colvin, who I just found out died. Right? I feel like we're right back to her, where economics, where she was the first one that really refused to give up her seat on that bus at 15. Yeah. And even, having this understanding and working and hearing from our young people and bridging the gap there as well. So I am Dr. Angeline Dean. I did put there my website, but I could also be found at Angeline Angie Dean on Facebook, and on most other social media spaces, Dr. Angeline Dean. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Dr. Felice. I know that people are calling you Felicia. Felice.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. I seen it also in the chat. I'm like, Felice. All good. What do you say, Dr. Felice? What are your thoughts?
So I'm a ditto both the ladies, like absolutely on point. And I'm just going to admonish us to return to your first love, which is you. And what does that mean? Self-care is key. You got to take care of self first. It is your responsibility ultimately to make sure that you're okay. No one else is going to make sure you're okay if you don't do it. And so we have to start taking care of ourselves holistically, right? And so like they said, do your own food, research, educate yourselves, and then let's start rebuilding communities of trust. We've got to come out of these silos, this isolation and withdrawal where we don't trust one another anymore. We got to let that go, and we've got to build communities of trust where we have one another to make sure that we're good, because no one is going to do it for us if we don't do it for us. So that is what I'm admonishing, that we got to get back this Black love, like for real, and start taking care of each other and taking care of ourselves. Everything starts at home first. So I'm Felice Hightower Britt, your Be Big Coach. You can find me on www.thebebigcoach.com. I am b.big.coach on Instagram and on Facebook and on LinkedIn. So really, if you need some hybrid approach about how to get to the root of your trauma, and then when you heal, let's start making some goals, then please reach out to me. I would love to help.
Yes, be big. Be big in the 26. You like that? What's your tagline for be big in 26?
Oh,
I love that. I
yes.
love Felice. I love her. I think she is the one. So if you are gonna have a therapist or somebody on your side helping you heal, she the one. Renee, what are your final thoughts and how can people get in touch with you?
Thank you. So as you can see right there at www.equitrials.com, my lifetime, a friend, a very brilliant Black woman who created this with myself and a lot of other expert panels to help bring information about clinical trials and also just information for the community to understand what these trials are, to understand what they can ask their doctors. Absolutely, there is a resource under the resource tab. There's something called the Bill of Rights, and it has all of the questions that you can start off or can generate something in your memory or jog your memory of what you would like to ask your doctor. So we compiled a lot of good information on this particular website, not pushing clinical trials. We're just letting people know here are the clinical trials, but also very importantly, here's the resources that will help you understand what's going on. What can you ask your doctor and whatnot. So my name is Renee Williams. As you can see, equitrials.com. Please go out there. Please tap in and browse and get the information.
Yes, let me tell you, I love our new queens. I mean, I love our veterans for sure, but I think that they have so many new perspectives to bring. As you can see, this is, well, Dr. Angeline was here on Monday, but for the most part, these, for Renee and Dominique, our first shows here, first show of the year, and first show with us, and y'all knocked it dead. Y'all killed it. I loved it. I love that. And I love having you, and I love having your voices. They really just make a difference. So welcome, 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 welcome. My final thoughts are this. There's something about every year I'm always thinking like, how in the world can I get Black people to understand that it's really just us, right? We have us. We are our biggest asset. Our sisterhood is our biggest power. Our superpower is how we love, how we just how we connect. And somehow we've been kind of living in a country for a very long time that's made us that's done different things. And I know it's not us. I blame white supremacy for everything, but I do think that we've been programmed in a way to just not think and look inward. You see your own person, you see, if doctor for whatever reason people will choose to go to somebody else and say, I'd rather her than my nurse than Dominique, my nurse, because I don't know. I don't like how Dominique is aggressive. She be doing too much. I think that we've been trained and programmed to see each other in a certain way, not just others, but we see ourselves. So like all of the queens have said, my doctor is a woman of color. My OBGYN, I found the only OBGYN I feel like in LA that's in Kaiser's thing. I was like, oh, she got to be Black. And even my primary is a woman of color, even though she's Latina. She's still that girl, right? She's still like, we got to figure it out. I just think it's important. I think it's important for the people that you look at and that are servicing you, that are healing you, that are helping you heal, should look like you and at least be able to identify or understand you, or want to take the time, like Dominique said, to take the time to want to understand what you're going through. And so I would just say that when you're looking around for people that can help you, let's lean on each other. Let's lean on each other for help. If you get a therapist, my therapist is Black, all of the things, right? Like everybody is going to be Black in my circle. So I encourage you to do the same thing. Find people that look like you, because likely they can connect to you. My name is Tiara Williams. I'm also known as Miss Black Hollywood. I am the proud producer of this show, but also a story selling expert. I work here in Hollywood. I help people tell their stories, and on every medium. So just so you all know, I have not launched it yet. Um, but I've been talking about launching a podcast program, which will help you all if you are interested in telling your story in a way, or understanding how to use your story to sell products, to, not sell products, even for us to hear your voice. I would love to work with you. I'm at missblackhollywood.net. That's MSBLACK, Hollywood.net. So if you're interested in thinking about starting your own podcast, I'm the one to help you do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So go ahead and reach out to me, and set up a consultation, and we'll see if I can help you tell your story. Okay, y'all. This was it. This was a good show for me. I was dreading coming in here. I was like, oh man, we ain't seen Constance this year. I was, but I'm so happy that I got a chance to spend time with you all. I see you in the comments, Black Lexicon, Deborah will win, Jasmine Rose. Y'all are always lit, and we always appreciate your thoughts when you come in and you connect with us. We appreciate you coming back every day. Do you know that Deborah will win told me last week that she had watched last year in 2025, YouTube told her that she had watched 263 shows. Deborah, tell me what it was, right? She watched 263 shows, 263 Fly Nubian Monies. Literally, Deborah's been here. She gets the crown for last year. And there are people that do the same thing, that come and show up every single day. So if you love what you are watching and want to get involved in our community, text Queens to 87948. That's Queens to 87948. It'll give you notifications for when we go live. And we will be here tomorrow, same time, same bat channel. So we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us.